Welcome to At Ease with Cooking. I'm Bonnie Kershke, your host. Are you looking for some new baking ideas for this holiday season? Something that's easy to prepare, can be made ahead of time and tucked into your freezer to be used later for that gala occasion? Something that is versatile enough to be served at either your buffet brunch, your festive luncheon, or as an addition to your dessert cookie tray? Well then, join us for this evening's demonstrations on holiday fruit breads. We'll be preparing a variety of those delicious quick breads, and we're going to begin with a cherry nut bread prepared by Lorraine Buth. Hi, Lorraine.
Hi.
Nice to have you back with us.
Yes, it's been a while.
With a bread that sounds just wonderful. Cherries and nuts, how appropriate for the holidays. How did you come about this recipe?
Well, it's a friend of mine from some time back. I went to a party and the fruit nut breads that were out were really excellent, and the cherries and the nuts just really struck my eye because they are so colorful.
Yes, oh, they are, those beautiful red cherries. What ingredients will be using for the bread?
Okay, we have pretty basic ingredients. There's the 3½ cups of flour, 3½ teaspoons of baking powder, 1½ teaspoon of salt, 1 cup of sugar, 2 tablespoons of shortening, 2 eggs, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. And then, of course, we have our cherries, and you need the juice from a 10-ounce jar of maraschino cherries. And you put that into a measuring cup, and then you add enough milk to the cherry juice to equal 1 cup of liquid. And then you have your cherries from that. And then you also have a whole cup of Brazil nuts.
Oh, those are beautiful, large nuts there,
Yes.
too.
And we keep the nuts whole as well.
That'll be nice when they're sliced, then you'll get some interesting different shapes to the nuts. Now, if you couldn't find Brazil nuts, because they aren't always so easy to find, would it be all right to use a different nut?
Oh, yes, and some people don't care for Brazil nuts as well either, and so they could use any kind of nut.
But leave them whole.
But leave them whole, or the halves. Or for instance, walnuts, you get halves or whatever.
Right.
But it depends on what you like for your taste. Your nut would change the taste just slightly.
Slightly, right. Okay, so how do we go about then preparing these ingredients?
Okay, first of all, of course, you want to sift your flour
Okay.
and baking powder and salt together. So
Okay.
we'll start with that. And I'll just add this a little bit at a time to start sifting here.
Great. It's always such fun this time of the year with all these yummy baking things and the wonderful smells that go through your home.
Oh, yes, I love the smell of baking. You can put a little more of this in, then I put the baking powder in with that so that it
Okay.
all gets mixed up together. Baking powder and the salt. And then that sifts up together.
Boy, that help you out a little bit there.
Yeah, it's surprising how nice that gets then when it all sifts together and you
It's nicely dispersed through there.
right. That way you don't have little pockets of taste somewhere of something that's too salty or not.
Yes,
not
good
salty enough
idea.
or whatever.
Very good
So when
idea
you
to do
sift
that.
it together like that, I believe that's
All right.
done there. Okay, and then the next thing that you would want to do is start with the creaming the sugar and the shortening together. So you do that in a separate bowl here so that you can get them creamed nicely together. If you don't do that, it might tend to get a little lumpy with the shortening.
Yes, I'm sure it would be hard to get that shortening dispersed through your flour mixture.
And you can do your eggs to make that go a little bit faster as well. You're getting your creaming things together here.
Okay.
Eggs get a little sloppy.
Okay. I'll take this one here and we'll put that in there for you.
Okay. And you can just, some people have little whisks or
Yeah, you could
whatever.
even use your mixer
You could use a
to help
mixer
you do that,
to
too.
mix this up. But you want to get it all creamed together nicely so that isn't lumpy.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems to work pretty fast and fairly well, although the shortening, another thing with shortening, I think sometimes if you have it room temperature, then that helps on the creaming part too. Okay, now you're going to, after you add the eggs, we're going to put the vanilla in here as well. I love the smell of vanilla.
Oh, yes, it does. It smells so good, and it adds just a nice little flavor to it.
Mm-hmm.
And that is interesting, using the cherry juice as part of the liquid in this recipe.
Yes, that gives that taste too. And as I said, it was,
and you need to add
yes,
milk to that, right?
It was the 10-ounce jar of cherries, and that doesn't give you a whole cup. And so what we're going to do is add milk to equal that cup so that you would have enough of the liquid.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Well, a little bit more.
A little bit more, I think, there.
This tends to be a little heavy mixture if we don't have enough. Then you add that to this, and that starts bringing out your nice color here.
Beautiful.
Well.
It's going to be a beautiful colored bread.
And you can see that there still are
yeah,
a few,
maybe the little mixer might help with that a little
few
bit.
little lumps of, don't want to do that too fast.
We don't always have enough time. Our audience realizes that we don't have quite as much time as you would have at home to complete everything.
I think if we maybe would have blended that a little bit more, it would have, but they'll disperse down when you put that together. Then what you want to do is mix these two things together into your bowl.
Nice, good ingredients. And I understand this makes two loaves, two of the smaller loaves.
Yes, two of the smaller loaves, or if you wanted to get those individual loaves, then of course it would make several of those. But two of the small loaf pans. This makes a little bit of noise too here. I'm going to use a little heavier stir thing here now because I have more ingredients to stir.
Here, I'll hold that for you. What a festive bread for the holidays with that pretty pink color.
Try and get this going a little faster here.
Yeah.
Sometimes if you turn the bowl, that might help too.
I'll turn that for you.
Okay, that seems to be fairly. There's a little on the sides yet, but otherwise it's, and as we mentioned, it's a fairly stiff batter. I like to leave it on slow as I pull it out, and that cleans those beaters off a little bit too.
Right, and you don't have half of it that goes into your dish pan.
Yes, and we'll just put that over there. Okay, then what we have left, of course, are the cherries and the nuts, and because they're whole, we want to just fold them in there rather than beat them because they would get caught in the beaters.
Yeah, especially those nuts.
Yes.
Look at those beautiful cherries. Okay.
So we just fold that in like so, and make sure that everything gets distributed, and then we can pour them into our two small pans.
Okay.
And of course, because this program is not as long as it takes to cook this, well, we can do the magic and come up with something.
Right here, you would fill these two pans.
We would fill these two pans.
Okay.
And then you would bake, and they're greased and floured, by the way.
Okay.
So you have to have that. And then you bake them in a preheated oven at 375 for 50 to 60 minutes.
Oh, and here is one that
And there's
is
one that is
already
all finished.
Already finished. Now, you can certainly serve it just this way, can't you?
Yes.
But
yes.
you have another little suggestion, which why don't you tell us about that?
Okay, well, we also have a glaze that we can put on the top that, again, makes it look a little more festive and pretty for the holidays. And this glaze is made out of 1 cup of sifted powdered sugar, 4 teaspoons of maraschino cherry juice. Now, this is from another jar. You use the whole jar in the bread.
Okay.
So you have to have 2 jars of the cherries. And so you have, and then you have a half a teaspoon of vanilla extract. And then again, if you have a little bit of milk on hand to thin it out, if we have to have thinning on the glaze, so that it's the proper consistency to pour it over this and make it look so pretty. And then, of course, we've decorated with the nuts cut up in slivers and the cherries. And, of course, the green cherries also help make it a little more holiday spirit.
Oh, yeah, it looks
thing.
just beautiful that way. And the glaze, we have it here, and we covered that for a reason because it was,
yes,
it would dry out otherwise.
If you're going to make it ahead of time, you should put a cover on it because it will harden up.
But that's a beautiful consistency there.
Yes.
This is going to be a wonderful addition to people's holidays this year. Thanks so much, Lorraine, for preparing your cherry nut bread. We really appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome.
And coming up next, we have Gladys Meinz, who's going to be preparing apricot apple nut bread. Hi, Gladys.
Hi, Bonnie.
So nice to have you back with us again on another holiday show. You are our baker extraordinaire. You know that, don't you? And,
Thank you.
And I think that comes from the fact that your dad was a baker, wasn't he?
Probably so.
Yes. You have an apricot apple nut bread for us. That sounds absolutely marvelous. These apricots are so fragrant. The aroma is just, wonderful coming off of them. How did you come about this recipe?
Well, I tell you, Bonnie, when you asked me to come on the show, I looked through all the cookbooks I have, which is not many because I don't use them.
I know you don't.
But I did look through the ones that I have, and I tried a couple of the recipes, and they just didn't do a thing for me. They just didn't have any zing. So I thought, well, I gave those loaves away to my neighbors because they'll eat anything, you know. And so then, well, they're 2 widow guys, you know, or whatever they are when they're men. Widows, aren't they? Yeah. Widowers.
Widowers, right.
Widowers, excuse me. But anyway, then I decided, well, I'll zing this up a little bit. So I got some more apricots, and then I had some apples in the refrigerator. So I added some apples, and then I added some nuts, and this is what you come up with, what I came up with, what we're going to do today.
Yes, and it is wonderful because I had a taste of it before we started today, and it is absolutely marvelous. You have the knack for recipe development. You don't need any kind of cookbooks. What are we going to start with first?
We're going to start, and we're going to use the half cup of margarine and half a cup of butter. And then we're going to cream it with 1.5 cups of white sugar and 1 cup of brown sugar.
Take those for you. It's great to have a nice heavy-duty mixer.
Yeah, I couldn't live without my mixer. Then we're going to add 4 eggs.
4 eggs, okay.
And we're going to beat it again for a couple of minutes. Oh! Sorry.
That sometimes happens, doesn't it?
I dropped
Everybody's had that happen.
Did I dropped it? Sorry. Okay. We'll just put it on blend.
Okay.
Just for a minute now. Okay, now we're going to switch it off a minute so you can hear better what we do. I just have to wipe my hands a minute.
Okay.
Okay, now in this basin we've got 4 cups of sifted flour, 2 teaspoons of baking soda, and 1 teaspoon of salt. So we're just going to mix that in there a little bit.
Okay.
Much.
Now this is going to make quite a few loaves, isn't it?
Yes, it's going to make either 2 big loaves, which are 9 by 5 by 3.5, or 1 big loaf and 2 smaller ones, which is 9 by 4 by 3.
Oh, okay. Great.
Okay, so now what we're going to do now is add a little bit of the flour and then some of the apricots,
Okay.
the apples, and the orange rind.
Okay, now what did you do with your apricots here?
These I cut up with the scissors before I cook them. And I put them in 2 cups of water and I let them come to a boil and then I simmered them. Just simmer really slow for about 20 minutes after I'd cut them up.
Yes.
It doesn't matter, you can simmer them first and then put them through the food processor, cut them up, whatever you want to do.
And now you said how many apples?
Then I used 4 apples.
Okay.
Then I saved some of the juice, because the water boils down. You put 2 cups of water in it, but it boils down. So then I saved some of the juice, so I ended up with probably a little better than half a cup. Then I had 1 orange, and I grated the orange rind, which you see here. That's the orange rind. I squeezed the orange, so put the orange juice in with the apricot juice. And then I added brandy to make 1 cup.
Oh, nice brandy.
So then I'm going to put the brandy and the apricot juice and the orange juice all in here.
Ooh, does that
So we're
smell
going to
good?
add a little bit of the flour, like this. And then some of this.
Oh, yes. So you had a little bit of dry and then a little bit of
A
wet.
little bit of wet, yeah.
Oh, and those nice pieces of those apricots. Wonderful.
And then a little bit more dry. So you just keep letting it mix, you know.
I can smell the brandy. Did you use just a regular brandy?
Yeah. You can use apricot brandy if you have some in the house, or regular brandy is fine.
And I'm sure if you didn't have
And if
any,
you don't like brandy or you don't like that in it, then use
just a little extra orange
just leave
juice.
a little extra orange juice, yeah. You scrape that good because you want to get all that good stuff out.
Yes. That apple in that is going to keep that nice and moist.
It does. It
that
will
bread.
stay
Yes.
moist. It will stay. Well, I've had some in the refrigerator now 3 days and 4 days, and the older it gets, the better it tastes.
Yes, that does seem to be the case with these quick breads, doesn't it? They
Yeah.
have to sit around for a day or so before they truly get flavorful.
It's a lot to the system.
Yes, it's a beautiful mixture.
But it's it gets the apricots tend to stick to your beaters, you know.
Uh-huh.
So
Giving a last little fold in
yeah,
there.
but we've got to put the nuts in now. See?
Okay.
But you get all this off your beaters, and that's what takes you the time, you know.
Mm-hmm.
At home, I do it with my fingers.
Those do seem to be very handy, don't they?
See, at home I do it with my fingers. I don't dare do that either. So.
Well, I think we all use our fingers occasionally, so we'll let you.
Well, you almost have to for the
Yeah,
apricots
that's
because
right.
it sticks to the beeter so bad, you know.
Uh-huh. Wonderful. Okay.
Then we can put the nuts in. Just 1 cup of chopped walnuts, those are. You can use pecans or... You know what is good in this, though, too, is if you don't have any nuts in the house, if you have sunflower seeds.
Oh!
Just the plain sunflower seeds, not the salted
ones.
No,
Yes, yes.
just the plain sunflower is really good.
Wonderful.
But see, we're losing a lot of our apricots here because...
Here, maybe one of our little...
Yeah, the little spatula would
will
probably be better.
Work a little easier for you. Okay, I think we've got enough now, Gladys. We can put it in our bowls. And
I'm going to put this under here.
all right.
It's just in my way. Oh.
Yes, we'll get that little...
I can't stand things on my hands.
Okay.
Sorry, but...
And then these were the 3 containers that you have. And
Okay,
you,
now you can use Pam if you want. I use Pam lots of times at home, but this is, I grease the pans with lard, and then I floured the pans, and I'm going to make 1 9 by 5 by 3.5, and 2 9 by 4 by 3. And that's
Okay,
what this
great.
recipe makes.
Great. And I'm going to let you put that in there. How long are you going to bake these now?
We're going to bake it at 350 degrees, and the big one takes 1 hour and 15 minutes, and these, check the smaller ones in 1 hour.
In 1 hour, okay.
But the thing is, for oven temperatures vary, so stick a pick in it. If it comes out clean, it's done.
It's
The old
done.
standard method, you know.
Yes, and here we have one that is already been prepared. And this was done in the larger pan, a generous, generous loaf of apricot apple nut bread. Fantastic.
Do you want
Gladys?
Should we
Yes,
put it-
you can put those in, and then I'll tell our audience that coming up next, I'm going to be preparing a cranberry nut bread. I've had this recipe for cranberry nut bread for more than 25 years, and I got it when I was visiting my in-laws down in Tucson, Arizona. We happened to go to a little holiday gathering at a gal that worked in my father-in-law's office, and she served this at a time when I had never heard of cranberry bread before. And it has become a staple in our house during the holidays, and I can't tell you the number of people that I've given it to, and everybody really loves it because it is a very moist bread. And I am going to move a little bit quickly here. It's 2 cups of sifted flour, and you put that back in the sifter, and you add a cup of sugar, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, a 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, and 1.5 teaspoons of salt. And then you sift that all together so it gets nicely mixed through the flour. And then we're going to use a product that's called wheat germ. Now, I don't know how many of you are familiar with wheat germ, but it is necessary if you're going to do this recipe to use it. Wheat germ comes in a jar like this. You can buy it in the cereal department of your grocery store. It's actually the part of the wheat that is taken out of the flour as it's milled, so it's very, very nutritious. I'm going to put that in with your flour mixture, and let's see, we're going to put, that was a 1/2 cup. We're going to put 1 teaspoon of grated orange rind, and we're going to put a cup of halved cranberries, the fresh cranberries. Then we're going to just mix that all up. Going to add a 1/2 cup of chopped pecans, mix again, and then I have over here 1 egg that I've slightly beaten, and I've got a 1/2 cup of orange juice. I'm going to add that, 1/4 cup of warm water, and 2 tablespoons
of oil. You can use any kind of oil you want, but not olive oil. You wouldn't want to use that in this recipe. Then we're going to just mix that up with the beater, just to get it all mixed together, and add it to your flour and cranberry mixture. And here you just want to mix this by hand because you don't want to over mix it. You want to mix it just till it's nicely blended. And it's a beautiful bread because it has that nice red from the cranberries and the crunchiness from the pecans and the wheat germ. That gives it a nice crunchiness too. Now what I would do with this is I would put it in either a 9 by 5 inch baking pan, an 8.5 by 4.5 inch baking pan, or 2 of these smaller baking pans. They're not going to be as high as some of the other quick breads are when you divide them down, but you can put them in any size pan that you like, even a soup can. But you do have to grease these first and then flour them. And here you can see one that has come out that has been baked in this little Campbell soup can. And they're so cute because they'd be nice round slices. Now you can serve it plain. You do bake that in the oven first of all for about 50 minutes in the large pan, about 45 minutes in the smaller one, in a 350-degree oven. You remove it from the oven, let it cool on a rack for about 5 minutes, take them out of the pans and let them thoroughly cool. Then if you like, you can serve them with a glaze, the loaf of bread with a glaze on it, which would be 1 cup of powdered sugar, 1 tablespoon of orange juice, 1/4 of a teaspoon of orange rind, and 1/4 of a teaspoon of vanilla. Stir that all up till it's nice and smooth. Put it on your cranberry bread and decorate it with some pecans and fresh cranberries. Now, it's great to serve this just as it is with a little butter. If you really want to go for a little more calories, put some cream cheese on it. That's terrific. If you want to use these on a cookie tray, it's great to slice your bread and cut it out with some great little holiday decorations. Here we've done it with a little Christmas tree. And here you have just a great variety of the 3 breads we've prepared this evening. Now, if you'd like a copy of this evening's recipes, if you'll send us a self-addressed, stamped business-size envelope and mail it to the following address, being sure you do include the title of this evening's show, Holiday Fruit Breads, we'll be happy to get these recipes to you. All of our delicious holiday fruit breads that we've prepared this evening. We have our cherry nut bread and our apricot apple nut bread and our cranberry nut bread. And the smells are just absolutely wonderful, the aroma from these wonderful nut breads. Gladys, you've been on before and you've baked some of your favorite things for us. What will you be baking for the holidays this year? Yourself?
Well, I still got my mincemeat to make. I haven't done my mincemeat. I'm really way behind this year. I don't know why, but I am. I haven't baked any cookies yet, but I do have fruit cakes made, and I've got quite a bit of the fruit breads. I've made pumpkin bread and this apricot bread, and I have some cranberry bread in the freezer. So wonderful. I think that will have to do for the breads.
Well, thanks so much for sharing your recipe with us tonight, and we'd like to thank Lorraine, too, for sharing her recipe with us. And we'd like to thank you, too, for joining us, and hope you'll tune us in again next time for At Ease with Cooking. Happy holidays!
Happy holidays.